Welcome to ISAP, the International Forum for Sustainable Asia and the Pacific 2020, organized by IGES, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. We are pleased to start the thematic track 9, Bridging Science and Policy, Journey of AP-PLAT for Climate Resilient Asia and Pacific. I'm Osamu Mizuno, Program Director of Adaptation and Water Area at IGES, and I will moderate the session today. As you are all aware, the effects of climate change are imminent, and it is very unfortunate that many lives have been lost around the world, even in this year, due to climate disasters, particularly flooding. The urgency of adaptation to climate change is increasing every year. The COP27 held last month was also called Adaptation COP, and much progress was made in international negotiations related to and initiatives related to adaptation. At the same time, it was frequently discussed that developing countries, which are particularly vulnerable to climate change, still lack the financial, technological, and institutional capacity to fully adapt to climate change. In order to build societies resilient to climate change and achieve the global goal on adaptation, or GGA, set forth in the Paris Agreement, the key is that climate science, policy, and implementation complement each other. With this background, IGES, together with the Ministry of the Environment Japan and the National Institute for Environmental Studies, has been promoting adaptation actions in the Asian Pacific with like-minded partners through the operation of the Asia-Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Information Platform, or AP-PLAT. Today, with a particular focus on strengthening capacity on adaptation for developing countries, we will identify gaps in capacity in the Asian Pacific and discuss with frontline researchers and practitioners on how AP-PLAT can contribute to filling these gaps. We will then aim to summarize our recommendations for AP-PLAT's capacity development activities. Today, I'm joined by 3 speakers actively engaged in the adaptation in the Asian Pacific. Dr. Yuki Yoshida is a researcher from the Center for Climate Change Adaptation, National Institute for Environmental Studies, or NIST. She is engaged in the scientific information management and tool development under AP-PLAT. We also invite speakers from Nepal and Bangladesh, which are the pilot sites of the AP-PLAT capacity development programs on disaster risk reduction. Professor Vishnu Barsado Pandey is a professor and Deputy Executive Director of Center for Water Resources Study, Institute of Engineering at Tribhuvan University, Nepal. And Mr. Netai Dei Sarkar is a director from the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, Bangladesh. And I hope Mr. Netai can join us soon, as he's during the travel, and he's kindly agreed to connect us from the airport. So I hope we wish it will going well. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us a very precious time. Let's move on. Now, before we start the discussion among the speakers, I would like to first provide the context of this session by showing you the very short presentation. So please, yeah, thank you very much. So next slide, please. So next slide, please. Thank you. So as you all know, we have been suffering from severe climate disasters worldwide recently, particularly in Asia, as you can see in the photo below. With growing concern over climate change, calls for enhanced adaptation action and support are getting louder. Paris Agreement stipulates the importance of adaptation and need for cooperation. Capacity development is a key to enhance global responses to climate change under the Paris Agreement. Next slide, please. With that in mind, and if we look at the situation in Asia and the Pacific, we can still identify several challenges. It is true that many governments and institutions have been working very hard in this region for the capacity development for adaptation. However, first, we do not have a comprehensive information platform for adaptation in the region. Also, horizontal collaboration among relevant countries and organizations are still limited in this region. And then cross-disciplinary collaboration, including the use of risk assessment information for adaptation measures and project design is also limited. And with that background observations of the situation, AP-PLAT was launched with the objective, as you can see in the bottom. And first, it aims at developing a one-stop information platform to organize and provide the most comprehensive information on adaptation in Asia and the Pacific for capacity development and beyond. And it also aims to establish a system for regional collaboration on adaptation, including capacity development efforts through linking existing adaptation-related initiatives and activities and identifying the opportunities of joint actions. So next slide, please. Although the efforts are still preliminary, AP-PLAT has already identified some key issues to be tackled with, as listed here. And one of such key issues are how to address compound and cascading risks and associated disasters, as highlighted in the red. Compound and cascading disasters are the disasters in which several disasters happen at the same time or in succession. And it has attracted attention, especially due to disasters that happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as it is a new type of risks, it calls for urgent needs for capacity building in Asia and Pacific and beyond. Next slide, please. That is why AP-PLAT started working on this issue, among others. In fiscal year 2021, AP-PLAT have developed e-learning courses for it, and that is already available on AP-PLAT website. The website is managed by NIST, by the way, where Yoshida-san is working on its management. And in fiscal year 2022, we now try to create local language guidebooks in Nepal and Bangladesh based on the previous year's materials. And we are working with Vishnu-san and Netai-san as panelists for this project. And that is why we invited them to this session to discuss about the future collaboration under the AP-PLAT. And next slide, please. In particular, we plan to discuss these two themes. One is barriers and solutions for enhancing adaptive capacity. Then the second one is role of AP-PLAT. And we'll come back to this slide later. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to pass my mic to the Dr. Yoshida to explain more details on AP-PLAT and its three pillars. So Yoshida-san, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mizuno-san, and hello, everybody. I hope I can introduce AP-PLAT to you in a satisfactory manner. My name is Yuki Yoshida. I'm at the National Institute for Environmental Studies, Center for Climate Change Adaptation. And I'm one of the researchers that's part of the team managing this information platform, AP-PLAT. So AP-PLAT is a web-based information platform on climate change adaptation, specifically in the Asia-Pacific region. Our goal is to contribute to the sustainability and resilience of the Asia-Pacific region by informing decisions and supporting adaptation actions. But practically speaking, what we are or what we manage is a website, which I hope you'll take the time to visit through this link here. And maybe at this point or some later on, I can happily send the link through the chat function as well. AP-PLAT was established based on the Climate Change Adaptation Act of Japan. This was a new act that was effective 2018. And within it was an article that established an international system for sharing climate information on climate change. The website itself was only launched June 2019, so it's relatively new. And at the Center for Climate Change Adaptation, we actually also host a sibling platform, a bit older, from 2016, which is geared toward a domestic audience, but also has an English site as well. What we do here is conduct strategic research on the adaptation measures through observational research and monitoring of climate change impacts. We also provide technical advice, mostly to domestic, local authorities and regional climate change adaptation centers, and hopefully increasingly in the broader Asia-Pacific region. So the concept of AP-PLAT is based on these three pillars of providing tools, scientific information, and capacity building. Bridging both tools and, well, actually all three pillars are some of our big scientific tools that we like to promote. ClimateCast and Climate Impact Viewer, which I hope you'll find by experimenting is quite user-friendly. It makes climate change scenarios, their varied outcomes, assumptions, and regional differences visual through both geographically and chronologically through map and chart functions. The data itself is also downloadable. So we really try to cater to the needs and provide for our users. We also put a lot of, strength and capacity development. We provide various resources, including e-learning courses that are available on YouTube. We conduct webinars and also have tutorials for the tools that we provide. We also very recently launched an expanded version of our adaptation planning website. This provides a lot of detailed and hands-on practical information geared towards developers of national adaptation plans in the broader region. We try to make the data itself, again, quite accessible to all users. And I'm sure if you'll look around, you'll also find things as practical as availability of financial resources at different governmental levels, as well as, for example, the status of the adaptation planning in different countries within the region. So overall, AP-PLAT aims to support adaptation in the Asia-Pacific region by providing scientific information, developing tools, and building capacity for adaptation. We hope to make the scientific evidence and information data available to stakeholders, whether they be scientists or government policymakers, and local practitioners and all interested individuals. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to discussing this with you further.
Thank you very much, Yose-san, for your very concise introduction of AP-PLAT. Now, let's move on to a more focused discussion on capacity development. By the way, and Netai-san from Bangladesh make it, and he successfully joined us. Thank you very much joining from the airport, Netai-san. So firstly, I would like to invite Professor Vishnu to highlight the ongoing adaptation activities, initiatives on focusing on capacity development and their challenges in Nepal. Vishnu-san, please take the floor.
Thank you so much. I understand I have only 5 minutes, so I will go quickly. I will be talking about challenges in strengthening capacity on developing adaptation in Nepal. Let me start with a vulnerability context of Nepal from disaster viewpoint. As per the Global Risk Index 2021, Nepal is ranked as 4th, 11th, and 30th vulnerable country to climate change, earthquake, and flood hazard, respectively. So what makes Nepal vulnerable is its a topographical variation. As you can see here, there is a DEM in the background. Nepal's topography varies from less than 70 meters to more than 8,000 meter elevation. So it indicates that the Himalaya or high altitude regions are sensitive to climate change, and risks of glacial lake outburst flood is high in that region. If we come to the middle mountains or the hills, young and fragile geology and steep topography makes it vulnerable to geohazards, various forms of geohazard like landslide. And also if we go to flat land in the we call tarai, they are prone to flood. If you take a couple of examples related to recent disaster, this is a case of a landslide which was held in August in 2014. It was a rainfall-induced massive landslide, typical slope failure with massive rock fragments and sand soil. 156 people killed, and estimated 6 million cubic meter of debris raised more than 100 meters of the water level. A large lake was formed, artificial lake was formed. This is one case. Second case is about the 2050 Gorkha earthquake. Many people are aware about it. We got a lot of very good support from globally. We really thank you for that. It was in April 2015. More than 7.6 magnitude earthquake hit Nepal, including more than 450 aftershocks of larger magnitude. 1/3 of the population in Nepal in 31 out of 75 districts at that time were impacted. Nearly 9,000 people died and more than 22,000 injured, and 0.8 million houses and heritage were destroyed or damaged. And if you take another example related to flood, especially debris flow particularly, it is in the Melamsi where we are trying to implement that AP-PLAT related stuff like Miju Nusan talked earlier. It was in June 2021, devastating debris flow, which was a clear case of multi-hazard cascading in that area, had a lot of impacts, as you see here. Even the not only the in terms of property damage and the loss of lives, also the one of the mega projects of Nepal, Melamsi water supply project, has the headworks damaged and water supply is completely disturbed, and it is not started even today. So the message here is disasters are evolving as more complex phenomena with more likelihood to damage and loss compared to before, maybe particularly related to climate change. So there are a lot of initiative in Nepal in terms of legal framework and institutional framework development. Since 1982, there are many evolving initiatives for mainstreaming disaster-related stuff for addressing it. In terms of institutional arrangement, DRR, Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act 2017, provided a ground for establishing an institute to look after the various, to look after coordination of various activities. As a result, National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority, or NDRRMA, has been established and it is functioning very well today. So if you try to talk about a couple of challenges, continued engagement is a challenge. Many projects are completed and they are not continuing. So need to move to the program mode. Coordination among the partners, like Mizuno-san also mentioned about horizontal coordination, we need to improve that. A specialized information platform is lacking. Like platform like AP-PLAT may be able to contribute in this endeavor if we can localize to the different countries as per their local requirement. Of course, financial resource is not always easy to access, and technical capacity is a challenge. So some of the initiatives like Nepal has taken for as a roadmap for adaptation is NAPA and LAPA, like many other countries. Nepal also has taken. Accordingly, it was initiative was taken back in 2010. And National Adaptation Plan focuses on various processes that is duly followed. And this process started in 2015 in Nepal and is still continuing because several activities related to NAP is yet to complete it. And LAPA, Local Adaptation Plan of Action, aims at delivering adaptation services to the most climate vulnerable people in the Nepal. So in terms of capacity need challenges, and developing adaptation requires a focus on capacity building. A couple of things here, what we need to focus is, one of the challenges is the concept of adaptation. People consider this not as a new thing because we are this concept trying to capture the existing thing in a new bottle kind of stuff considered. Evidence-based prioritization of adaptation is a challenge because we need to talk based on data, and we should consider this as a process and should transfer from project to program mode. And finally, access to capacity building related courses like AP-PLAT is necessary, and this would really help in this endeavor. And targeting to a right set of participants for capacity building is a real challenge. If we can achieve these things, hopefully we can move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vishnu-san, to provide us a very comprehensive introduction of the situation of Nepal, as well as very good insights for the future actions and the AP-PLAT. with very limited time frame. Thank you very much. Now, let us invite Mr. Netai to introduce current efforts and challenges of capacity development by the Bangladesh government, especially in the area of disaster management. Netai-san, over to you.
Thank you very much. I am Nitai Desharkar, Director Monitoring and Information Management at the Department of Disaster Management under the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief. Okay, anyone is sharing my presentation? Please. Thank you. Distinguished guests, learned audience, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. And here is very good morning from here in Bonn. Okay, let's welcome you all to this presentation on introduction and challenges in strengthening capacity development of adaptation in Bangladesh. Next slide, please. Let's see how capacity development of adaptation looks like in Bangladesh. Capacity development of adaptation is the main business in disaster risk management in Bangladesh. Policy documentations are focused on disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. Standing orders on disaster has been published in 1997 and updated periodically. Standing orders is a tool which outlines the roles and responsibilities of the various ministries, departments, and committees for ensuring coordination and implementation disaster management activities in the country. Sectoral agencies are playing proactive role to integrate disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation in their policy and plans. Local level disaster management funds has been created at 64 districts in the country. Disaster management managers have given equal importance on both non-structural and structural measures. Next, please. Now we'll be focusing on some non-structural measures for capacity development. SOD outlines the roles and responsibilities of various ministries, departments, and disaster management committees. Harmonized disaster management training module has been developed. A circular has been issued that any training schedule should have at least one session of 2 hours on disaster management for any training institute. PR standard training curriculum and module for cadre, community action for disaster response, and MFR, HOPE, and CSSR have been customized for Bangladesh. Agricultural research institutions have innovation of disaster tolerant varieties of crops and provide training to the farmers. Next slide, please. Some specific examples of capacity building, especially as a training, National Disaster Management Research and Training Institutes is offering foundation training course on advanced disaster management for district relief and rehabilitation officers at district level and project implementation officers at sub-district level. Training of various local level disaster management committees members on disaster risk management based on SOD are also convening at urban and rural settings. Search and rescue training for urban CPP volunteers, Bangladesh National Cadet Corps, Scouts, Answer BDPs are also imparting. Fire and earthquake safety training for market employees, especially for Dhaka cities, are also taking. Cyclone, fire, and earthquake safety drill and exercise at urban and rural areas at least twice in a year, also conducting in the country. Next slide, please. So here is some glimpses of non-structural measures. especially capacity building, few trainings and exercise drills. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now we'll be talking about some structural measures for ensuring capacity development in the country. National Disaster Management Research and Training Institute has been established in 2016. Construction of multi-purpose cyclone and flood shelters and Mujib Killa for both human and cattle head sheltering are constructing in the country. Right now, we have more than 4,000 cyclone shelters all over the coastal areas and around 1,000 flood shelters in the floodplains. We are also constructing Mujib Killa. It's a earthen raised ground for cattle head sheltering. We are also constructing small bridge, culvert, rural roads for connecting shelters and institutes needed in emergencies. And we have also procurement initiatives of equipment for search and rescue operation in earthquake and other disasters. Procurement of multipurpose accessible rescue boat for evacuation, search and rescue operation in flood-prone areas are also in progressing. Installation of lightning arresters in prone districts, and we have introduced interactive voice response service from mobile phone operators using 4-digit code 1090. It's a toll-free for disseminating early warning rapidly to the community people. Next slide, please. Here is some glimpses of structural measures for capacity development. Next slide, please. Now we'll be talking about some challenges in terms of capacity building in the country. Full functioning of NDMRTI with modern facilities and subject matter specialists are still is challenging issues. Others issues are ensuring provisioning of hazard-specific research facilities in prone areas, limited learning scope of administrative professionals in disaster risk reduction field, persisting knowledge gap on emergency hazards among disaster risk reduction practitioners are also one of the challenging issues. Inadequate knowledge management and sharing culture within the DRR institutions are also remarkable. I think that's all from my side. Thank you all. Thanks for patient sharing.
Thank you very much, Natai-san, for a very clear explanation about very various ongoing efforts for capacity development for adaptation in your country, as well as the remaining challenges. Thank you very much. Now, thank you. Now I would like to move on to dive into the discussion part. As explained earlier, we would like to discuss 2 points. The first, we want to discuss the barriers and solutions for enhancing adaptive capacity in the region. And then based on that, we will try to identify the roles, potential roles of AP-PLAT as a driver to strengthen adaptive capacity in the Asian Pacific. Firstly, I would like to ask Vishnu-san and then Netai-san, what are the barriers against strengthening adaptive capacity in your country? Although you have already explained some elements of it, but still, please remind us about the key points of your message, and what are the future prospects and plans of capacity development activities in the area of climate change adaptation and disaster management. So maybe please start from the Professor Vishnu.
Thank you, Vishnu-san. I have highlighted this in my earlier presentation. If I take 2 points rather than barrier, how we should move forward, let me take a couple of points. One is we should consider capacity building as a process, not a one-time or two-time work. We build the capacity of a set of people and finish. That should not be like that. 10, 20 years, it should be a process. Second point is we should focus on evidence-based prioritization of the adaptation strategy, so that people will not be recommended something with their with their perception, but based on facts. That's second thing, we should focus on developing materials and also strengthening capacity. Third thing is targeting a right set of participants. Sometimes we may have a set of participants, but they are not interested or not regularly engaged in capacity building, the adaptation stuff. If that is the case, they may be capacitated, but their expertise may not be used in the right area. So targeting to a right set of participant is the third thing. And fourth thing is building a case based on local knowledge is really important. If, for example, if we are providing training to Kathmandu, for example, if we can, of theoretical foundation may be the same, if we can demonstrate with the local examples, so they can feel it, they can understand it and visualize it, that really helps a lot. So these are the three things. And the last thing is, for building, of course, local case studies, we may need to invest. For example, if we want to build an AP-PLAT as an example, we may need to explore or invest a bit for developing local case studies. These are the 4 points I would like to share for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaishnu. A very concise and clear message to us, and very insightful. Thank you very much. And then Netai-san, please
Yes,
provide your comments as well.
As I already have mentioned some issues in my presentation. Actually, in Bangladesh, we have established a new National Disaster Management Research and Training Institute, but this training institute still is growing up. There is no specialist manpower, as well as very right infrastructure for running the disaster management training programs in the country. And we also are lagging behind to form develop issue-based and issue-based training curricula for conducting the trainings in the country. So all these initiatives are also taken care of from the Department of Disaster Management, though National Disaster Management Research and Training Institutes are responsible for that. So in that case, we are having some collaboration from various development countries to strengthen the capacity of National Disaster Management Research and Training Institute. Especially, we are looking forward to have some collaboration for research interventions for National Disaster Management Research and Training Institute. Within the existing capacities of Department of Disaster Management, we are basically conducting the training programs issue-based. We are providing training for volunteers, both in rural areas and urban areas, as we already know that at the coastal areas, we have cyclone preparedness program with more than 74,000 volunteers. So we are providing training for them, but some new issues, let's say cascading and compound disaster as country. So these new issues we need to incorporate in our regular training programs. So that sort of collaboration we may seek from AP-PLAT and others. Thanks. I think that's all from my side. Actually, I am not very comfortable position to talk.
Yes,
actually, I am in the queue.
I know.
Queue
Thank you very much for
checking.
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
yeah, you're welcome.
Netai-san. Okay, very good. Now, then I would like to pass the microphone to Yoshida-san to give some your thoughts on how then can AP-PLAT could respond to solving these barriers, or maybe others. I mean that after listening these suggestions or worries from the two speakers.
Sure. Thank you, Mizuno-san. I'll keep my comment brief now because I know we're gonna dig in a little more in the second round.
Right.
But I think our role really is to step in where there's a lack of capacity for capacity building. So I'm sure a lot of countries there's a need for capacity building, but then to organize these large scale capacity building, I don't know, events or provision to develop the resources from scratch, it takes a lot of resources on itself. And we provide those resources so that the resources of those countries can be directed more directly at the changes that are needed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Then maybe I should. I also come from the IGESO, which is a part of the efforts from part of the sort of driving power of AP platform. Maybe I want to add one thing. Once again, thank you very much, Netai-san or Vishnu-san, for your very insightful suggestions. I guess that I can see that the situation, although many efforts are ongoing, but the challenges are very diverse depending on the situation and of the countries and maybe local communities. Therefore, when we try to develop, come up with training courses or capacity development programs, we need to closely communicate with the counterparts or local communities, or so that our program can be tailored to fit into the situation of the targeted area. So, like today's session, we need to make further efforts to have a conversation or dialogue discussion with the key counterparts, so that we can develop a further good capacity development programs to be fitting to the real needs of the local situation. So that's it from me. Then let's move on to the second round. And second point is that after Vishnu-san and Netai-san, after listening to the aim and the functions of AP-PLAT, what do you expect for AP-PLAT to strengthening your country's adaptive capacity, and how can we improve AP-PLAT in a more useful way? That if you have any specific insights for it, please give us some.
Thank you,
thoughts.
Vishnu-san.
Yeah.
I have three messages here. One is the customization of the contents. I scan through the AP-PLAT after I learn about it. There are very, very good contents. But as I mentioned in my earlier point, customization for a specific set of audience in a specific country with the local information, data, and case study is really important. That helps to make it a wider use. This can be done with the partnership, and this has already been started from Nepal and Bangladesh. Really a good step already. Second point is enhancing its capability. There are good thing again, but again, for capability for scenario analysis and options evaluation, if we can build in that, of course, it may be some background modeling work required and calculation required. If that can be built, this can really be used as a decision support system in a generic context. That's second point. Third is enhancing its uptake. For uptake, for example, before I talked with Binay-san, I was not aware about it. So it means wider dissemination through a different national, international platform and through our networks is really required. That helps people to understand this platform exists, and they can then disseminate it widely through their network, so it reaches out that is existent to a large set of audience. So there are three messages: customization of the contents to local case study, enhance its capability, and enhancing uptake by wider dissemination and this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Netai-san, please say a few words for this. Hello, maybe he has a difficulty to contact us, right? I guess, I'm afraid. Then maybe we can ask him later, but then I should ask that Yoshida-san, by listening to the expectation by Vishnu-san, what do you think the AP-PLAT can offer in responding to his suggestions?
May I quickly show AP-PLAT? Share my screen?
Sure.
Thank you. So yeah, I think one of the strongholds of AP-PLAT is the customizable information. I mean, of course, there is a limitation to how much we can do, but we do, for example, make provide a database of e-learning courses where people can select the relevant sectors or point of interest. Similarly, with data and tools, you can also look for, the type of tools or data available relevant to your sector or region. And then for the scientific tools that we provide as well, we try to get as local as possible with the information that is readily available. For example, in this case, I'm showing one locality within Bangladesh. So you can really dig into sub-prefectural or sub-state or sub-district localities within each nation to look at, to compare, for example, how climate change scenarios vary from predictions vary from scenario to scenario. So, we are a one-stop kind of large-scale platform, but at the same time, we do try to localize as much as possible. And as I said, we are a fresh website, and like Mizuno-san earlier mentioned, we are engaged with a lot of actual stakeholders in trying to improve our content and to serve better and better the needs of the people, all stakeholders in the region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Yosef-san. And then if there's any questions from the audience, I can pick up a few. Are there any comments from there? Okay, so I was instructed that I can keep going, so I can move on. So maybe I guess that we have some more time, so maybe I can ask some additional questions, which was not shared beforehand with a participant. But one of the key, I guess, is of AP-PLAT is a partnership. I mean that. In other words, that the basic idea is that although capacity development efforts are ongoing by many organizations in the region, but our idea is that by linking the existing efforts and identifying the gaps between them, we may bring in additional value by partnership. So what kind of area do you think that we can add values through the partnership of the organizations or countries or the institutions within the region for capacity building, or maybe information development for AP-PLAT, and I mean that without to duplicate the existing efforts. So that is something I want to have some insights from the participants. So any thoughts on that? So maybe Vishnu-san, you have something?
Thank you. Thank you. It's a really excellent idea, because in this world or in this era, what we do is, of course, resources are limited. We try to mobilize the partners' resources in a way that builds on each other's expertise or the efforts, right? That's really a great idea. I think for example, maybe piloting to a couple of countries where we try to explore what the ongoing initiatives are and how they are aligned with the AP-PLAT's initiatives, and try to link that. I think that will be excellent, good start for bringing the partnership and optimizing the available resources so that everything can be bring together to a single window to the potential user. That's an excellent idea. Then based on that, then we'll understand perhaps what are still the gaps. Then that can be filled together again through partnership by mobilizing the next set of resources. That's an excellent idea and doable, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yosef-san, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. I'd just like to add that one of the contents that I'm really looking forward to, that we've been working hard on, is the provision of interview articles with practitioners on the ground. And we're really trying to reach out to our networks. But also, if maybe there are listeners right here that are working on ground on climate change adaptation issues and can reach out to us. I think sharing the common or sharing challenges and barriers that are encountered, possible means of innovation, even locally, can be great resources and sources of inspiration for other viewers or users of the platform. And yeah, something that I see a lot of potential for moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much for very promising and encouraging observations and suggestions for the future collaboration under the AP-PLAT umbrella. Now, unfortunately, I don't think Netai-san can come back again. So maybe.
Can I add one point if you don't mind?
Okay, sure.
I think other idea is to disseminate it widely. Usually, there are a lot of graduates from Japan working in different Asia Pacific countries, right? If we try to make sure that Japanese professors are aware about these initiatives, or we encourage them to know about it and disseminate through their networks, perhaps it helps to reach out to the large number of networks. And many graduates from Japan are already in influential position in many countries in Asia and Pacific. So that I think could be very helpful for disseminating it widely and also exploring the potential partnership opportunities and enhancing uptake of this noble initiative. That's just an additional comment from my side.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh, sure.
That really something that we strive to do is to become a one-stop, place where people can identify resources, and those might not be the resources that we have come up with. We're not really trying to, and I think we can be misunderstood coming from a government, agency. But we're not trying to promote a particular government or a particular resource. We're really introducing things that we have not developed and making providing the link to our users. And I hope that will be something that can be better understood, so that people can really find it as a one-stop place to then find what they really need.
Okay, thank you very much. Very great, Yoshida-san. Very good insights. Now it's time to almost need to approach to the concluding our discussion. So thank you very much for the significant contributions. And I think we had a very fruitful, constructive, insightful discussion on the challenges and future prospects of the capacity development activities in the area of climate change adaptation and disaster management in the Asia Pacific, and on the strengths and implications for future capacity development activities under AP-PLAT. As for the recommendations for effective utilization of AP-PLAT in the future, I do not necessarily need to compile into one or two sentences, because as we have given so many insightful suggestions. But nevertheless, I would like to summarize today's discussion into a few points. First of all, there's it was almost, I think there's an agreement that there is a lot of room for further efforts on capacity development in the Asia Pacific region, and AP-PLAT can play some important role to fill the existing gaps on that issue. However, secondly, situation and needs are very different depending on the countries and the communities and the local situation. And hence the service should be customized. And we also need to further promote consultations or discussions with the counterparts of the targeted areas, so that we can come up with tailored capacity development programs that will well address the real needs of the countries or communities or regions. In terms of the contents of the capacity development efforts, it's a bit challenging to compile it to one or two sentences, but sort of I can say that we are advised that to expand the scope of the concept of capacity building for adaptation. When it comes to adaptation and capacity development, we tend to think about a one-time training or single isolated project, but such approach may not be sufficient. Adaptation should be considered should not be considered an isolated intervention. We need to understand it in a broader context, and in that line of discussion, we highlighted the importance of, for example, the rising awareness and coordination among the not only among the ministries, but among the different stakeholders and the different countries. And the one-time training must be accompanied with the follow-up activities, like, for example, mentoring or consultation processes until the capacity building efforts bear real fruits on the ground. And we also need to think about promoting a programmatic or systematic approach by going beyond a single project approach. And we should reflect this kind of consideration in our future efforts for the developing capacity development programs under the AP-PLAT. And of course, I should not forget that we need more evidence-based prioritization, which is, in my understanding, it's exactly what AP-PLAT is aiming at. I mean that how to bridging the gap between science and policy development. So we should explore we should make further efforts to strengthen the tie between science and policy, and how the science need to be further utilized for real policy design. So, and of course that other issues like a local, and also regarding a partnership, we also it was highlighted the partnership. It's a promising area of work to strengthen the partnership among the existing organizations or countries in the region under the AP-PLAT, and we definitely can add value through that kind of partnership. So we should need to further discuss among the interested parties, including the participants to today's discussion, to identify the really important area of work or joint work for the future. I guess I dropped some of the key points, but that's my summary. So if you want to say something urgent, please do so. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us today. I guess that as one of the managed organizations of AP-PLAT, I just would like to take these recommendations from today's discussion very seriously and push forward for our capacity development programs more strongly with our partners, including the participants of today's session. And we are looking forward to working with all the relevant stakeholders in the region in the near future, and feedback for improving the development AP-PLAT is very much welcome. So thank you very much. Now I would like to conclude this today's session with a big the final big thanks to all the participants and speakers. I hope the discussion was both fruitful and insightful all the audience. And ISAP 2022 is ongoing through the 5th of December. I hope to see you in other sessions or at the next ISAP. So thank you very much. But before we completely close our discussion, I would like to ask a favor of all of you in the audience. When this session concludes, you will be presented with a survey in Zoom. Your feedback is very important for us to improve future sessions. So please take a moment to fill it out. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.